one of the things we've always valued at Grind is being dynamic.
Just the pandemic, the timing, obviously the e-commerce boom off the back of it. You can't have predicted it, but
at the time it blew my mind that was even possible. But I now understand that you need a balanced skill set.
What advice would you have to people thinking about embarking on, I want to be a CFO in a startup?
It becomes harder going into the startup world if you're someone that wants security. It's so easy to research now and get your mind set on what it actually means. And like all problems, it's not that complicated.
There's lots of finance leaders out there working for businesses that they kind of enjoy the job, but they're not passionate. And you've kind of, it feels like you've really...
Yeah, I've lucked out.
How will AI impact the role of the CFO and the finance function?
We're putting some software in place at the moment that can write my board report for me, so I'm off to the beach. Make no mistake, going through a B Corp process with a high street business and a global supply chain and was really challenging. We're trying to get people drinking better coffee that's better for the planet, and we want to make that accessible to everyone. That's what we want to do because it's the right thing to do.
Dan, good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for taking the time. As a starting point, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me, first of all. I'm Dan Sherfield. I'm CFO of Grind Coffee. Been there about 9 years, just gone through my 9-year anniversary. So it's been quite a big chapter of my life, really. So I'm looking forward to talking about it today. You know, during that time, I've got married, had 3 kids. They're in primary school now, so you know it's been a massive part of my life. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you guys today about it.
Brilliant. And what's your role at Grind?
So I'm CFO. Excellent. So I've ran the finance team the whole time. During that time, you know, started as head of finance, moved to FD, moved to CFO, but ultimately doing the same thing, just different titles. So yeah, leading the finance.
Brilliant. And can you? It's been quite a journey at Grind, from what I gather. Pandemic. And up to this point. Can you tell us a bit about the journey, please?
Yeah, so I wasn't part of the founding team. It started in 2011, but I joined in 2015 when they were kind of 4 small cafes around London. And we're about to go through 10x, I think, sales and growth since that time. But no, it was a startup back then. It was good fun. It was great. You know, I remember we moved to our head office in Shoreditch and had a little roastery on the end of it. And you know, one of the startup stories for me was trying to we insourced our roasting and got the roaster delivered, and it wouldn't fit through the door. We didn't have a handyman back then, so I kind of went and got an angle grinder and took the garage door down and moved that. So you know, we've had some real startup moments through that time. But you know, we were high street then, and we took on financing. We did a few crowd fund rounding rounds, you know, raised a few million in 18, a few more million in 2019, but still predominantly high street. We got to about 11 sites just before the pandemic. And we decided, you know, around that time, we built this great coffee brand. We were roasting our own coffee then. We could make something of this, you know, diversify our income streams a bit. So we decided to put some of that second Crowdcube round into, well, let's build a website. Let's kind of create more online products. At that point, compostable pods are just, you know, we were able to be the first in the UK to bring in home compostable pods. So we built a website, we invested in a tinning line, we built out a new bigger roastery, so moved it away from that garage door in Shoreditch down into a bigger facility. And we placed, we've also built that website and put an agency on, and we placed our first £100 of Facebook advertising in February 2020. That was our first £100. And then in March 2020, obviously, the world changed. Our high street income, our 250 employees on the high street, all closed down to nothing. And, you know, that ride for that next 6 months of figuring out furlough and figuring out how to, you know, look after our staff through that, all that was going on, and the stress and everything of that. But at the same time, you know, our online business just blew up, and we went to 10,000 a week and 20,000 a week and 30,000 a week, and, you know, all within 6 months, just growing massively. And all of a sudden, this coffee brand. Coffee had always been part of our heritage and had led the high street through that. And yes, we are coffee and cocktails and brunch and so on. But all of a sudden, this coffee brand that we'd built was now the main platform to take coffee out to our consumers. And, that was a real turning point for the business. And, we've taken that, and today we're broadly, we're a third high street, a third online, and moving to a third grocery and B2B. We're in Tesco, Waitrose, Co-op, online Ocado, and so on. So it's been a really great journey for the business. And today, we're trying to get better coffee that's better for the planet, and having more people drinking that in whatever channels we can and wherever they're drinking it. So at home, as I said, online, in grocery, and then out and about through our high street, hotels, restaurants, so on. We're trying to get our coffee out there to the world, and it's been a really exciting journey.
Had you always seen yourself being a startup person? Was that something you kind of said early on in your career, like I want to go and work in the startup environment, or had you maybe thought about other routes as well?
Yeah. I was lucky that I kind of knew what I wanted to do from a very early age. My mum and dad both worked in small local businesses. My dad had a business importing food processing equipment and then installing it in salad factories and so on. And my mum was a bookkeeper and kind of worked her way up to be a director of a kind of nuts and bolts company, and both small but successful business in their own right. And I worked in both of them growing up. I'd bike down the hill at 4:00 every night after school and do a couple of hours of filing or expenses or whatever it was in my dad's business, and that was how I grew up. So I kind of always knew that I wanted to be in a small growing business, leading a small business. So I didn't quite know at the time how I was going to do that. I didn't have aspirations to be an accountant or a CFO or whatever, but I was good at maths, so I did maths and economics at uni and kind of went on that path and joined EY. But I always knew that it was, okay, get the academics, get the qualification, and then move in. And I didn't know what that path was going to look like, but I knew where broadly I wanted to be. Yeah. So I think I'm quite fortunate that I knew where I wanted to go, and it was much easier to carve that path out.
Yeah. And is there something that's like you found, having taken this path, that you'd say is the bit that kind of makes you tick, the bit that's most fulfilling for you about that type of environment? Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, I'm a problem solver at heart. I'm not particularly great with a blank canvas. I leave that to David and the brand team and so on. That's the blank canvas stuff. But I'm really good at, okay, how do we do this? How do we figure it out? And that's the startup environment, right? It's you've got a problem. How do I get this product to market, or how do I cut the costs or make it efficient, or build the team, or whatever that is, or build the strategy, and how can finance influence that strategy? That's what I love to do. And if anything, that's got more and more interesting as we've grown. As now we're trying to push these products into different channels, into different environments, different consumers. That it's become more and more interesting. So yeah, I absolutely love that environment.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I'm sort of making an assumption, but tell me if this is correct or not, that like when you first join a startup, it's quite, as you say, nuts and bolts. You kind of got to get the basics in place to help the business grow. And I guess you've had to evolve with the business, and your role probably feels a lot more commercially focused now than it did when you started. It's an assumption, but maybe
I mean, yes, when you joined, you can't do what you do without the team around you. And, when I joined, one person in particular, she joined the month before me. And, I couldn't have done what I do and what I did and what we built without her. But yeah, even then you're very much in the weeds. You're kind of, as a finance function, you are financial controller, FP&A, commercial finance, investor relations, and so on. And that is, you've got this really broad role. You're really involved in every single thing, and it's difficult to balance or spin all those plates all at once. And then as you grow, you build out that team and you bring in that functional expertise as you go. And so yes, I think much more to be honest, your leadership is the most important part of that once you build out that team. And it's trying to understand how you can pull the various insights and so on that you need to out of that team. But leading that team then becomes, you talk far more about strategy and people and organizational structures and so on as the organization develops, hopefully. But again, that's just a new challenge that love either learning new skills for or trying desperately to apply the old skills you have to the new problems and new situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, the role definitely evolves over time with growth and with complexity.
We speak to a lot of people that have maybe trained in the Big Four or or perhaps sort of followed the more corporate route, and then say, look, I really want to try being in a startup. I want to be in a startup, and obviously it's become arguably more fashionable in the last sort of 5-10 years versus the corporate career.
Yeah.
What advice would you have to people making that transition or thinking about embarking on, I want to be a CFO in a startup?
So I always hesitate with advice because I think you can only talk about your own experiences and what worked for you. But if I take my learnings of what did work for me, I think one, you can either do this or you can't. So only relevant to some people maybe. But I was fortunate that I took the leap before, I got married and had kids and all those things, So if you can and you're confident in yourself, and that's the key part, if you're confident in making that leap, then do it at the time you can. I think if it becomes harder going to the startup world, if you're someone that wants security, to do that after those times, still possible. Obviously, that's up to everyone. But I think that's easier, and that's what I did. Didn't think of it through like that, but that's inevitably what happened. And then I think you need to remember, if you do want to leap into that world and add value to that business, you need to remember what the purpose of finance is. And it's very easy to go into those environments where inevitably it's a mess, right? Startups haven't got the systems and the processes and so on, and you can walk in and go, okay, what's going on here? And you've got to build those things over time. But you always need to remember, where does finance add value? And so I think I made this up. I don't think I read it, but it's a kind of mantra or something that I say to my team. I say that the purpose of finance is to deliver accurate and timely information that gives visibility to make better decisions. And that's kind of the 4 pillars of finance, if you like. And you've got accurate, it clearly needs to be right. You've got to get it out there timely so people can get it and react to it quickly. You've got to actually put the analysis out there so it's visible and people have access to the information they have. And they're all really important building blocks. But the most important thing in finance is making better decisions. That's what the CEO cares about. That's what the board cares about. That's what your shareholders care about. And so you need to put these things in place and you need to work towards them. But ultimately, at every point, you need to be going, okay, I've got what I've got. How can I make better decisions? And remember, that's why I'm here. And so, in my first role, I probably didn't realize that. I went, oh my God, how do I fix it? How do I fix this problem? And I've got to work with the accountants to figure out this one and so on. And I got bogged down. And I don't think I probably gave the CEO everything she needed at the time. And actually, as I've learned, as I've gone through, that was in the previous role, as I've learned, as I've got on, it's like, okay, no, prioritize. What does everyone care about here? So I think if you're going to make that leap, just accept that you're going to go into a smaller business. Accept that you're going to go, oh, okay, there's a lot going on here and I can't fix everything at once. So what am I going to prioritize? You're going to prioritize those things. What are the decisions we need to make? And how can I get to the best answer I can get to as quickly as possible in the way they need me to? Remember, that's your primary role. Mm-hmm. Would be the thing I've learned that is super important.
A lot of people looking to step up into that sort of number one role as well that we speak to are kind of often the blocker for them potentially is you don't have any investor experience, you don't have any fundraising experience. What are your thoughts on that?
Good question. I mean, I was fortunate that, my background was EY, corporate finance, due diligence. So I kind of understood what a transaction looked like. It's so easy to research this stuff today. I'm sure that at some point AI is going to come up in this conversation, because every conversation I have about finance, it comes up. So I'm sure that's coming. It's so easy to research now and get your mind set on what it actually means. And like all problems, it's not that complicated. It's really not. It's just knowing, as I said, in a similar way to where your priorities of a finance function are. It's understanding the priorities of what people are looking for. It's as I said, it's not actually that complicated. You just need to understand, okay, well, I need a forecast, and I need to understand my numbers, and I need to be able to talk in the metrics that they're going to be interested in. The actual nuts and bolts of it, in terms of learning the company law structure of everything, I didn't know any of that. I learned it as I go. It's not difficult. You need a good lawyer, and you need to work it through. It's important not to make these things sound more difficult and more complicated than they are. Put in the time, put in a bit of research, and you can talk to these situations and back yourself. And yes, if you're looking to make that jump and get into a business and going through a process, the recruiter or the business may say, we're not going to take the leap on this person this time. That's fair enough. That's inevitable. But keep going. Someone will take that leap on you if you're confident and you know that's what you want to do, and then you will figure it out. I didn't know most of the things that I know now when I first started, but applying yourself, you can. These things are all doable. Would be my advice. Back yourself, and you'll figure them out.
Yeah, sounds like there's this thing about for you as well. It's you went in early enough that maybe that wasn't a priority for them at that particular moment. So the timing of that was important for you, maybe.
No, I joined in November 15, and we were raising money in 2016.
Okay.
We've raised money along that whole journey, as most startups will. Understanding the business and what the business needs is the main priority of an investment process, right? Yes, talking to investors and understanding these things is super important. But if you understand the business, which presumably you do if you're going into that kind of financial leadership role, understanding the business and being able to communicate the value of the business to that investor is ultimately what they're investing in. So as long as you focus your time and energy there, the details of it and the supposed experience of, well, how do I issue shares and how do I do those things, you can figure out the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Focus on the value of the business, and that, because that's what the investor's looking at, and you can work through that. And certainly from day one at Grind, it was, well, what are we building? Where are we going? Where are we heading? What are the commercials of our units? And we need to raise more to open more of them. So what does that look like? What does the ROI look like? All these things are relatively standard things in business. And if you're moving into that role, then you understand that. As I said, and back yourself that you understand that. But again, focus on where the value is and what the investor is looking for to create that compelling value story. And that's what they're investing in.
So when I'm hearing what you're saying generally, it feels like you've got that natural growth mindset, flexibility, kind of mental agility to just adapt. It feels like maybe that's the most important trait that maybe secured you the role and has given you that opportunity to grow with the business. And maybe just a little bit on, I'm assuming the CEO of the business saw that in you, and that's why you were appointed in the role as well.
Probably yes. I think one of the things we've always valued at Grind is being dynamic.
Yeah.
I think as a business, as a brand, that's how we've been able to. Okay, we were a coffee shop business, and then we moved into all day dining, and then the pandemic hit, and we shifted, and so on. So yes, you need to be able to adapt. If you're going into that fast-paced environment, you can't cookie cutter things. So yes, you need to be someone that wants to be dynamic, enjoys being dynamic, enjoys going, okay, we don't have a process for that. How do we figure that one out? You certainly need to have that mindset in a startup world, or not even just a startup world, but a scaling world, an ever-changing world. And I think that's different maybe to going into a more established, growing at 2% a year business. That will inevitably be a different mindset, longer time frames and so on. So yes, I think you have to have that mindset to a degree.
And how much does luck play into it as well? I mean,
Huge.
Think about timing.
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation with a few CFOs now, and there's an element of luck and timing with a lot of these things, and the e-commerce thing is maybe.
So I did a year in Melbourne during my time at EY. I did a year abroad as a comment to the Melbourne team, and the Melbourne coffee culture is great. I kind of got introduced to coffee there and brunch and loved it, and I was like, why can't we have this in the UK? And that was in 2010, 2011. And I came back and I tried to find it a bit in London and so on. And then when I was kind of going onto the market to find my next role, I got introduced to David. And he was running a recruitment process at the time. And he set up the business with a business partner from Melbourne who wanted to bring the Melbourne coffee culture to London. And he was looking at the same time as I was looking. And yeah, pure luck, pure good timing. I'm sure I'd have found another role and maybe I'd have enjoyed that one as much. But in terms of that, yeah, it's the right timing. And, you're, in this case as well, as a CFO, your relationship with everyone in the business is super important, but your relationship with the CEO is really, really important. And that luck that, we view the world in the same way and we complement each other's skill sets and so on has also been a really important part of that journey. So I guess going back to advice I'd give, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you through these processes. I'm sure you guys will advocate for. But that relationship with CEO is pivotal, and you need to make that work in order for you to be successful in your role and for them to be successful and the business to be successful and so on. So yeah, I'd say that's also really important. And the luck came about that was right from the start, really.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe did it come along again in some respects in the pandemic, just given where the business was at sort of
the luck or the relationship?
Just the pandemic, the timing, obviously the e-commerce boom off the back of it. You can't have predicted it, but
we talk about it a lot. The year before the pandemic, or the years leading up before the pandemic, I've gone back and looked at the board packs, and it was kind of, wouldn't it be, let's put a bit of money into the website, and wouldn't it be great if we could build a £1 million, online business? Wouldn't that be great? And the pandemic for all it was, and it decimated the high street and was a huge challenge, and everything else that comes with it, obviously. And I don't want to underplay that, but for us, that timing of we just got ready. I mean, we'd literally just got the website ready. We just got the fulfillment business ready. The tinning line got installed the 3rd of March, I think. The luck that we were ready at that moment for blast off, and it was blast off. And, spent the next 6-9 months just trying to stay in stock, trying to get stock into the country, But a month later, and we wouldn't have been ready for it. And this could have been a very different story. I mean, literally, it could have been if we only had the high street through that period, it could have been a very different story. But we didn't. We were ready, luckily, and the journey carried on from there. And it's completely revolutionised the business and what we're able to do now and what we're going to be able to achieve, we hope.
Sometimes unusual, you've stayed at the place for a long time, right? So you've been with Grind now for, was it 9 years plus, something like that? It's a long time.
Oh yeah, 9 years.
9 years. It feels like that's because you've matched your passion with the business, which is sometimes really hard to find. There's lots of finance leaders out there working for businesses that they kind of enjoy the job, but they're not passionate. And you've kind of, it feels like you've really...
Yeah, I've lucked out. I do love what I do. I think I would love what I did anyway, because I love the challenge of business and figuring things out and leading teams and working with people. I inherently just love that. But I think it's great that, I've got a leadership team and the CEO that we've got a similar view on how we want to approach that, and the product I'm proud of, and I'm proud of the brand. And, so yes, it ticks a lot of boxes. I feel very fortunate.
Let's talk about balancing having a challenging role, leading a finance function, co-pilot to a CEO, but also with life and being a dad in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned during the time there, I got married in 2016. Thea was born 2017, Josh 2020, and Isla 2021. 2020 and 21 in particular, like that crazy ride we had during that 2-year period. It's really, really tough. But actually it's part of it's a really important part of how I approach it as well. I'm a family man, and everyone knows that. Everyone in the business knows that. They know that at 5 o'clock I'm walking out the door regardless. And I don't duck out and sneak out and hope that nobody notices. I say I'm leaving at 5. I set those really firm boundaries, and my team know that if we need to carry on the meeting, I'll be on the phone, and if I need to log on later, I'll do that, and after the kids are in bed and whatever. But I balance it by being vocal about it, about saying, I'm a dad and I'm going home to see my kids. And I think it's really important to me as a husband and a father that that's my priority, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm there for them. But I think it's really important as a leader in a business to, model that behavior. I don't believe that you get the most out of people by saying you need to work in these hours and you need to do it in this way and so on. I believe you get the best out of people by giving them, clear goals and deadlines and so on. And that's sometimes been difficult over the years, but I really feel like we're getting to a great place of that now. And people give you output, not. So it's really important to me that I model those behaviors to my team, that they know I live that. And, we've got working parents in the business who I encourage to do absolutely the same. You need to do the pickup at 4 p.m. Go. That's you absolutely should be doing that. And obviously this is the deadline, and we're fast paced. We work hard. We want to hit things, but this is your deadline. You manage it. Let's go. But it's really important to me that's what I want, because I want to be with my family, but also as a business leader that we model those behaviors. And across the leadership team, we believe the same, and David models those same behaviors as well. So it's really important to me.
Have you had to make many, if any, sacrifices in order to get to the position you are in your career now, do you think?
I don't think I'd call them sacrifices. I had to take a leap of faith. And I mentioned this, hey, leave early. That's very well and easy to say, right? But so I took that leap of faith when I left EY. I was at the end of my time at EY. Another comment actually. I worked with them, a charity they support called Social Business Trust, which is an amazing charity that partners with EY and Bain and Company and Clifford and Chance and basically acts like a mini VC for social businesses. So it finds great social businesses and that they think that with help they can deliver more impact. And then they decide, okay, well, you need someone to come in and help with your finances, or you need a strategy, or whatever that is. So they then put consultants in to help them from these partners. And so I worked with them as an investment manager to find these social businesses. And one of the businesses that I found was a business called Fashion Enter, that's a factory that makes clothes for M&S and women's clothes for M&S and ASOS up in Haringey. So, textiles in central London. And what they do is they run an academy that brings people in to learn the skills of that trade. Helping young underprivileged people get into that trade, provide apprenticeships and so on. And one of the things they needed, the conclusion was, you need to get on top of your finances. You need someone to come and help you do that. And I kind of went, I could do that. And that was kind of my leap out of EY. So I left EY and I went and worked for them for a year. And so that was kind of the leap of faith of, okay, I can leave this big secure job at EY and I can go take a big pay cut and work for these guys. And so that was the decision I made at the time. And as I said, I always knew where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And so I was just looking for that opportunity to make that leap. And that was my journey. Won't be an option for everyone, but that was my journey, and that was what I did. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience working with them. I got some great experiences. I learned a lot. I made a load of mistakes, got a lot wrong. But it was really good. And it kind of set me up for, being able to go into these other processes to get the job I got today.
Sounds like purpose has always been really important to you. Being no matter where you've gone, being aligned to purpose. Obviously, making that leap, but it sounds like you made the leap because you just really cared about what the business was doing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that time with the charity and meeting all these social entrepreneurs who are just amazing people. Trying to do often too many great things, but trying to do great things. And then Jenny, who ran Fashion Enter, is an amazing person who's just trying to do so many things, and it was great to go in for that time and help them as much as I could. As I said, I didn't get it all right, but it was great to go in and help them. So having that purpose and again with with Grind. Sustainability, ethical sourcing is pivotal to what we do. We want you to have specialty grade coffee, so amazing coffee, but that's doing good by the planet. And that's been really important. So, there's having that sense of purpose and having those things that you're working towards is really important to anyone in their career, I think. But particularly as you're working towards these businesses that are trying to build something, you need to believe in what you're building. And look, I really believe in what we're building.
Is legacy important to you then as well? When you look back on your career in 10, 15 years time and you talking to your kids about what you did, and is that something that motivates you? I don't really think in that way. I don't think I believe in the way we do business, and I want those things to stick. But I don't think of it in terms of, hey, Dan did this, and no.
I certainly don't think of it in that way. I don't want my name on a plaque anywhere, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But my financial controller said, I was in a meeting and I just asked for, hey, it'd be great to see this, it'd be great to do this, and she went, oh, you're relentless. and my first thought was, oh, no, I'm working my team too hard. It's okay. And she went, no. It's great. I love that our culture here is, we're just always trying to improve things. We're never trying to sit still. We're just trying to do these things. And, one of our values is, better every day. And just this relentless improvement. And one of the things that, the way I operate is just this, how can we do more? How can we do more? How can we do more? And, as we go through startup to scale up to hopefully big business, if we think of legacies, the things we want to remember and keep true, then that's something that we're trying to keep. Okay, we need to be more organized and more structured and things. As you grow, inevitably you just do. But how do we keep that relentless? Okay, I just want to do this better. I want to understand this more. I want to grow this, in a better way. So look, I don't think that necessarily answers your question on legacy, but I think trying to instill those. Well, how do we want to do business? How do I want to do business? I think is important to me. That's important. But I don't necessarily think in terms of my legacy. Yeah,
I think I did mean legacy in that way, in terms of just being proud that you can look back on a career where you've kind of improved stuff and you've taken someone on a journey, and you can again sort of be proud of.
It's certainly important to me that I'm proud in what I do. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not being authentic, right? You need to be able to look back at the things you've done and gone, that was great. I'm really proud of that. I'm happy to talk about that. I'm happy to talk about that to my kids and to learn from it and so on. So in that sense, for sure.
Good.
And what are you to date? What are you most proud of?
I think my team actually. Mm-hmm. I mentioned earlier I've been lucky enough to work with great people in my team, and this person that I built out everything with for a good 5-7 years of that. Inevitably, as we grow, that team evolves and gets bigger and more complicated and so on. And, actually the last 12, 18 months, 2 years really has been some of the hardest of my career in so many ways, because it's kind of like, okay, we're doing so many things in so many places now. Inevitably, things start to creak, and I didn't have the team structured in the right way. Because we grow so quickly, we were business unit, almost finance for business units, and actually I needed to move it to a functional finance team. So I've kind of redesigned how the team works, brought in some new people, and it's been a real journey for me and the team and the business to go through that. But it's actually been the most rewarding thing I've done at Grind, I think. I really enjoy, solving those challenges and working through those things, and bringing people along that journey is, I think, been the thing I've been most proud of. I went to, years ago when I was right at the start of Grind, I went to this recruitment breakfast, and they had the guest speaker, and the UK CFO of Deliveroo was there, and he wasn't an accountant. And at the time, that blew my mind. I was like, "You're a CFO, and you're not an accountant. How does that work?" He came from a commercial data background, and someone asked, like, how are you a CFO if you're not an accountant? He's like, "Well, to be honest, the most important thing about a CFO is you're a leader. You're a leader first. And it was, I don't necessarily think I properly understood that for a few years, but he's right. First and foremost, you're a leader of your team. And you can only be that leader and a good leader if you've got a great team beneath you. And so going through that journey and building out that team and getting a team to a place where they really work on, they're self-sustained and they do amazing things. That I think going through that journey, particularly in the last year, and leading that team through that has been the thing I've been most proud of, for sure.
I think that's a really interesting point, because we've seen a massive shift even in the last sort of 5 years or so of, historically, to be a CFO in the UK, most people would say you need to be a qualified accountant.
Yeah. And
that, is not always, or never really been the case in the US, for example, where a lot of investment bankers are, big hitting CFOs. And that seems to have changed a lot here now as well. So investment bankers, consultants, not people who are qualified accountants.
I mean, it comes back to that point around where's the value? It's in better decisions. You don't need to be an accountant to make better decisions. You need to be very commercially minded to help make better decisions. And you need to be able to join up accounts and strategy and operations in order to make those better decisions. So, accounts is only one part of that, right? And it's a super important part. So I certainly think it's easier if you're an accountant as a CFO, because you can then understand that financial process and so on. And obviously, I'm still heavily involved in that in terms of the direction. Are we going to move this big bit of AI software or not? And, you're still very involved in the accounts and the transactional finance. But I think first and foremost, you're a leader. And if you're not an accountant, you build your team for that. And you have a really strong financial control and accounts team and so on. And you just build your team slightly differently. But I think ultimately, you need to come back to, I'm here to make better decisions for the business. And how do I do that with my skill set and my knowledge and my leadership style and so on? But ultimately, what am I trying to do?
A lot of people still argue the toss, though, to be a really rounded CFO, to be, a really great CFO, to have some accounting chops.
So to be clear, I'm not saying you definitely don't need to be an accountant. I'm not pitching for that.
No.
At the time, it blew my mind that was even possible.
Yeah.
But I now understand that you need a balanced skill set, really. And accounting is one part of that, and it's an important part of that. And I think you've got an easier ride if you've got it. But I think it's important to remember that there are other aspects that go into being that well-rounded CFO, and you can, you probably haven't got all three. So, you are able to bolt on extra skill sets as you need to create that well-rounded. And you either do that by team or just prioritizing what's important and remembering what's important and working towards that.
And then looking forward, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, we're definitely going to talk about AI, because you cannot get away from it today. It's a daily topic of conversation, I think, for everyone now. So in your view, how will AI impact the role of the CFO and the finance function in the next couple of years?
I mean, we're putting some software in place at the moment that can write my board report for me, so I'm off to the beach. I think it's coming. It is coming, and it's going to add so much value and create so much efficiency. And the challenge for us in finance, but also in accounting and in law and in everywhere, is how do you evolve with that, and how do you, realize the areas that it can save you a huge amount of time to move you up that chain. Again, I mentioned, and this so accurate, timely, visibility, better decisions. I mean, let's move our time up that chain. If we can spend less time in the accuracy and get it out really quickly because AI is doing those things, we can spend more time analyzing, giving visibility, giving access to data, and ultimately helping people make better decisions. And the skills that we need to develop to stay along with that are, what's the context? And business partnering is the number one thing that, finance teams need to evolve, in my view, because AI can't have the context of what's going on in the people function and the operations function and the strategy function and so on. AI can't do that. It can get you all the way up that chain so that you can then have really productive conversations, provide more context, and then know the right question to ask the AI and the right prompt to give the AI to go, okay, well, now we need to analyze this because they've said they've got a huge problem over here. So I think getting up that value chain is what AI is going to give us. And that's why I'm really excited about it. And that's why, we're actually in a pilot program with Google at the moment, the whole business, and they're trying to, get us to use the tools. We're using Google Suite and trying to kind of just prompt us to go, well, can AI do that? Can that help? Can this long process that I've got here, could AI help with this? And just start to get that into the regular day to day. And I went to a workshop with them the other day, and one of the things they said, look, just treat it like a colleague. You've got another colleague that you can ask the most stupid questions to, and you can do this. You've got these tools, and if you can build that efficiency in your day to day, so you're less time actually building the numbers and actually more time thinking about the numbers and talking about the numbers, that's where the value is. And so I'm really excited about it. The business as a whole is pushing it in every channel we can, and obviously there's this underlying concern and anxiety of a lot of people across the world and across business. But ultimately, if we're viewing this as a way that can make your job easier and more efficient so you can spend more time doing the value add stuff, that's hugely beneficial. And that's the way we're approaching it. And that's certainly I'm approaching it in my team. And every software decision I'm making at the moment is, how's that going to remove us from siloed data to consolidated data so we can leverage this to the maximum? And we need to be thinking about that as much as possible.
Mm. And hopefully, again, going back to the other point, you might be able to spend more time with our families rather than in Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit earlier on about sustainability. We're all B Corp certified founders. You're our first B Corp CFO, which is exciting, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. So you're a rare breed. But has that been important to the business as a whole? Why did the business go on that journey, and what's it kind of helped you guys with?
We're trying to get people drinking better coffee that's better for the planet. And we want to make that accessible to everyone, everywhere you are, at home, out and about. And that's what we want to do, because it's the right thing to do, to improve coffee supply chains and make them, ensure they're ethically sourced and so on. And it's what our consumers want as well. And I think we've launched the Better Coffee Foundation so that every cup of coffee you drink, plastic's been removed from the ocean. So we're trying to do that in every way we can. And I think B Corp's an important part of that. I think it's a really good discipline to go through, to actually look at your supply chains and go, oh, actually, we've looked at this now, and actually we need to focus on this area. That's not efficient, or why are we shipping from there to there to there and there? It challenges you to keep looking at all those aspects of your business.
Yep.
We're not perfect. No business is perfect. No B Corp is perfect. That's why we use the word better everywhere, and why I said better every day. We're not perfect now, but going through these processes, as difficult as they are, and make no mistake, going through a B Corp process with a high street business and a global supply chain and was really challenging. But it was also great because it puts you into that mindset and ability to go, right, well, actually, these 5 things over here are super important for us to go and improve. And we're not going to have it right from day one, but we're constantly working with our farmers, working with our suppliers, working with everyone to get that little bit better and better and better and better. And hopefully we can convey that message to our customers as well, so they know that that's what they're getting. And as I said, specialty grade coffee that's getting better for the planet, and that's what we're continuing to do. So I don't think B Corp is the central part of that, but I think it's part of the suite of things we are doing to ensure that we're always making the supply chains and our product better and better for the planet.
Yeah, I think it was the same for us, in that it's provided us a lens to reflect and look at the business, particularly when you're kind of doing your annual report, and make sure that you've got good processes in place, so that if you ever drop off, there's always a way to kind of reconnect with your purpose and look at it again and go, actually, we need to be better. Next year, we need to do more than we did last year.
Yep.
And then you start to put better processes and better accountability in place. But that comes with the starting point of wanting to do better and having that purpose. And that sounds like that's fundamental to the business ultimately. And that has to be there.
The want comes first. Figuring out how to do it and how to measure it and how to do all those things is really tough. Yeah. It is. Those things aren't necessarily all at your fingertips. And you can measure some things and you approach things from common sense of, well, that clearly can't be good. We need to do that better. So let's set this project up. And like all things in business, you go through a process of, okay, what are the priorities? What's the biggest impact we can have? Let's start there. Where's the low hanging fruit? Okay, let's start there. And you keep working through. And yeah, that I think as much as anything, B Corp and annual report, they're good checkpoints to make sure that, okay, what are we doing this year? How? And if you don't measure it, it doesn't happen. So applying that philosophy, we do it for margins and for profit and for everything else. We've got to do it here as well. And so getting into those habits of just continue to challenge yourself to get better and measure it and get better is core. But yeah, it starts from purpose. It starts from wanting to do it and it being core to who we are as leaders and running the business, and who we are as a brand. And those things have to be in place for you to be able to really be really effective in it.
We've just come through a period of extreme turmoil and change and conflict, etc. This year,
have we been through it?
Well, good point. We're probably still in it, but this year at least we've had the 2 elections. We've had the budget. We're now the other side of this, coming to the end of 2024. Are you optimistic looking into 2025?
Yeah, overall I'm optimistic. We've got a lot of new opportunities, a lot of things we're building that I think are really exciting on the high street, in grocery, things we're working with online, new products. There's a lot going on, and I think we're in a good place to be able to achieve those things. But yeah, I mean, the budget was a kick in the teeth, frankly, for the high street. It's a really hard blow. Both the national insurance rises and changes, also the business rates. It was a big hit to the P&L, and we'll have to find ways to move the business and move things around to make that work. And I think a lot of hospitality business will be really struggling with that, and then the broad ramifications of that on the rest of the business as well. So yeah, I think there are a lot of challenges. We're gonna have to figure out how to work through those. But no, overall, I'm still optimistic. In where we are, we're part of a growing market. Consumers are still really keen to drink lots of coffee. So no, overall, I'm enthusiastic and confident about it. But yeah, certainly there are headwinds there that weren't there 2 years ago that are of concern and we need to work through.
I know you mentioned earlier you don't like giving out advice. So what are there a couple of pieces of advice that you've had in your career that have stayed with you that is probably maybe worth sharing with other people?
So I mean, what I mentioned earlier, this CFO breakfast that I went to about you're a leader first, I genuinely think was one of the best pieces of advice I've given, because it's framed how I approach my job. And I don't mean that to sound, the grandeur of being a leader or anything. It's just, again, I try and focus everything with how you prioritize. And it's helped frame how I approach, how I do my job. And that's why it's such an important piece of advice. And then the other piece of advice that I think also is kind of core to who I am anyway is prioritize. Prioritize. I think when I started the job, there's so many things. You're spinning so many plates, and that's one of the biggest challenges I have in my job always. You need to be and I can't remember who gave me this advice. I think it was one of the partners at EY actually a long time ago. But you need to be comfortable with not knowing everything and not being in control of everything and not having a to-do list that isn't reducing. If you've got a month to do something, it's okay to take the month. You need to prioritize on what's important. And it's, I couldn't survive in what I do if I didn't approach everything with that mentality. And I couldn't leave at 5 every day, and I couldn't be home for my kids, and I couldn't deliver what we need to as a leadership team, as a board, and so on. You need to get very comfortable with making decisions only into 80% of the value, 80% of the information. You need to get comfortable going, I've got these 10 things on my to-do list that have been on there for 3 weeks, but you know what? They're not actually that important. So that's okay. As long as I communicate, that's fine. I'm focusing on these 3 things here because that's where it's value. And as long as we're not going to get a huge fine or something by not doing those, that's okay.
Yeah.
So that process of being able to ruthlessly prioritize, it was advice I got and how I operate. And I think it's really, really important. I think, it was interesting that it came from EY, and, accountants have a tendency to want to reconcile everything and get through everything. And type A personalities want to get through their to-do lists. And actually, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
You need to be able to go, I can't get to those. I just can't. And that's okay. And then prioritizing the things that the business really needs, or your team really needs, or the CEO really needs, or whatever. Focus there, and then go home. And you can get to the next bit next day, and you'll probably be okay. I think that's super important to do this kind of job.
Have you any specific tools and ways you do that? Or is it simply, these are, as you say, the 3 things, and I'll just look at it again the next day and spend time on it? Or is there a way that you do it? Are you using AI to do it? Help me prioritize my to-do list. I should be Google.
Yeah, that's where the context comes in.
Yeah.
I'm not sure AI can prioritize for you. Maybe it can. Maybe that's something I need to try. Can AI do this for me? That's a question I should be asking
myself. It can if you put it in a grid and say, this is high, 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 this is low, low, low.
And once do it for you. Probably once it's learned enough about you as a person and the business, and tries to reconcile that and put it in order. But
do I have a process? I have a rolling to-do list. I'm not saying don't have a to-do list, but I have a rolling to-do list that I move up. Is it eat that frog? Is the urgent important? My mind works like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just try and do that as much as I can. So I have a to-do list and I just shift and change it.
Yep.
So nothing technical, to be honest. I just keep going, and I keep looking at it and I keep working on it, and I just keep challenging myself. Is that really that important at the moment? Do I really need to be doing this? So no, it's just the habit of ruthlessly prioritizing. And if you're someone that works with to-do lists, if you're someone that works with notebooks, if you've got an AI tool that helps you do that, great. And I am actually going to go away and I'm going to ask, can AI do that for me? When I leave this, I really should have done that already. But no, it's the habit of doing that that's the important thing, and understanding the importance of it and being okay with letting things go. That can wait. Mm-hmm. I think that's the important bit.
Brilliant. Dan, that's a great piece of advice. I think for the audience, CFOs, finance directors, and others. But really appreciate you coming in today. It was a really enjoyable conversation, and wishing you best of luck next year.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dan.
Cheers.
Cheers.